Welcome to the video on the First New Deal. The First New Deal created programs that affected all parts of the economy: agriculture, banking and securities reform, industry, public works, and unemployment programs. We'll begin with banking and securities reform. The Glass-Steagall Banking Act of 1933 created the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, the FDIC. The FDIC insured deposits of member banks up to $5,000. In 1933. Today, the limit is $250,000 per person, per deposit account, per bank. The Glass-Steagall Act required banks to get out of the securities business, i.e., stop investing in stocks and bonds. The Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act repealed this law in 1999. This is how banks can now own insurance companies and brokerage firms. Look for the FDIC symbol at your bank. If your bank does not have this symbol on their front door, I would advise changing banks because that means you do not have deposit insurance. If you are a member of a credit union, the symbol would not be FDIC, but NCUA. It stands for the National Credit Union Administration. If the credit union doesn't have this sign, that also means you may not have deposit insurance. I would definitely ask. The Federal Securities Act of 1933 required all issuers of stocks and bonds to register with the Federal Trade Commission. A second act in 1934 created the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, to regulate the securities industry. FDR took the nation off the gold standard, also in 1933. Farm and housing relief. The Agricultural Adjustment Act, the AAA, was aimed at helping the plight of American farmers, and specifically overproduction and low farm prices. This program would pay subsidies to farmers to not grow crops or to store rather than sell crops already in. You might remember this idea from the old sub-treasury plan in the Omaha platform from the populists in the 1890s. Here it is again. This law also allowed farmers to plow under planted crops as well as slaughter livestock in an effort to raise farm prices. And according to historian George Brown Tyndall, the AAA pumped more New Deal dollars into the South than any other program. Who needed it? The Emergency Farm Mortgage Act offered extensive refinancing of farm mortgages at lower interest rates. It was designed to address the issue of farm foreclosures. The Homeowners Loan Act was designed to address the issue of home foreclosures by offering aid to homeowners through the refinancing of loans at lower interest rates. The Civilian Conservation Corps, the CCC. The Civilian Conservation Corps program provided jobs for unemployed young men aged 28 to 25. The program employed 3 million men in a variety of jobs in national forests, parks, recreation areas, and soil conservation projects. The program also added infrastructure to the national parks and generally improved them by building visitor centers, restrooms, campgrounds, and parking lots. In Colorado, 172 camps were created over the decade. Almost half the camps were assigned to the Forest Service, where the boys worked to prevent forest fires, and the Soil Conservation Service, where the boys completed soil and water conservation projects to alleviate the Dust Bowl. Another beneficiary was the National Park Service. CCC camps were assigned to Rocky Mountain National Park, Mesa Verde National Park, the Black Canyon of the Gunnison, the Great Sand Dunes National Monument, the Colorado National Monument near Grand Junction, and the Hovenweep National Monument on the Utah-Colorado border. The best-known achievement of the CCC in Colorado is the construction of the Red Rocks Amphitheater near Denver in Morrison. The concert venue is now world-famous, and coincidentally, the location of the first Beatles concert in Colorado in 1964. And surprisingly, of every concert that the Beatles held in America in 1964, the Red Rocks concert was the least attended. The Red Rocks CCC camp still survives today and is one of the few intact examples of a CCC camp in the United States. Unemployment relief. The Public Works Administration, the PWA, provided $9.3 billion for public buildings, highways, flood control, bridges, tunnels, and aircraft carriers. This was to prime the pump of business with new job expenditures. It added to the nation's infrastructure, including the Chicago subway system and Hoover Dam. The Tennessee Valley Authority built a series of dams that provided water storage, flood control, and electricity for economic development. Overall, they built 29 dams and 13 power plants. The construction of the dams, locks, levees, etc. create immediate jobs in the Tennessee Valley area. The nitrate plants were used to produce nitrate fertilizer. Efforts to create the TVA actually began in 1916 when the federal government funded a hydroelectric dam in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, on the Tennessee River. The dam's primary purpose at the time was to power plants making nitrate explosives. After the war, plans for the plant generated controversy after Henry Ford tried to buy it. In 1933, most of rural America lacked electricity. This was especially true of the Mid-South and the Tennessee River Valley, in talking about Tennessee and Alabama. By providing abundant electrical power in the South, the TVA opened the way for the wartime development of Southern industry. Industrial recovery. The National Recovery Administration, the NRA, not to be confused with another NRA, the National Rifle Association, drafted a set of codes over 500 industries. Representatives from each of the industries consulted with the NRA on the codes. The codes included guidelines for the cost of raw materials, minimum wages, and maximum work hours. Though the codes did not overly set prices, they in fact did. Merchants were asked to participate in the program and display the NRA Blue Eagle to show support. In the long run, the National Recovery Administration, the NRA, probably did little to alleviate the Depression, since it also served to raise prices. Maybe it helped manufacturers. On the other hand, the NRA also sets national standards for the 40-hour work week, minimum pay, and ended child labor. The Federal Emergency Relief Act authorized the Federal Emergency Relief Administration, the FERA, to give up to $500 million to the states to simply give to people. This was called being on the dole. The dole, as a term, is an ancient Roman term that described where people could go to get free bread. The FERA eventually handed out over $3 billion over the decade. The 21st Amendment repealed the 18th Amendment that forbade the manufacture and sale of most forms of alcohol. You could say that after taking a ride on the downward economic spiral, many people were ready to finally take a drink legally. All of this legislation, from the Glass-Steagall Banking Act of 1933 all the way to the 21st Amendment, is all part of the 100 Days legislation and is considered part of the First New Deal. Thank you for watching this video on the First New Deal, and as always, may the Force be with you.